today is going to be all about putting your startup on a diet. We're going to try to come up with a number of different ways that your startup can cut expenditures, save money without sacrificing quality of anything. This show is all about cracking the code, figuring out what it takes to start, scale, exit, repeat. There is a code that entrepreneurs follow. There is a lesson that we can learn from all other startups. We can become better at starting businesses. And this show tries to crack that code. If you haven't already done so, go to startup.club and sign up to the email list.
It's really simple for us. Like, we just want to be the place that people can come to learn, connect, and grow. And we're trying to service all the aspects of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Even if you're aspiring or you work for a startup, like, we want to be a place that you can come and learn and interact with each other. And we're talking about diets today. Oh my God, my favorite subject, Colin.
Yeah, it's
Diets.
all about yeah,
What do you
it's all
think?
about coming up with, a dozen or 2 dozen hacks of how startups can save money. I've already got a couple in my a couple of ideas that I want to share. And if you're in the audience and you want to share one of your hacks, please raise your hand and we'd be happy to have you on stage. In fact, we more often than not follow anyone who comes on stage because we believe that having people on stage really helps the message, and we got a lot of really great ideas from the community. Okay, so we're talking about how do we reduce costs without sacrificing our product or service. And when you do cut costs, that goes right to the bottom line. It's almost like when you add an extra dollar of revenue, well, this is sort of personal, but when you add an extra dollar of revenue, you got a lot of costs associated with that. You have your cost of goods sold, you have other costs to go with it. And Maurice, it sounds like we almost had you on stage here. It would be cool to have you up here. But you have a lot of costs. So when you cut costs, you're adding a dollar of cost, you're adding a dollar to profit. And that's the key here. All right, I'm going to kick it off with a couple of hacks, and then Mimi and Michelle, you could follow up with them as well. So first of all, it's out there, it's big, it's called ChatGPT. We all know it. I literally took the introduction of the book that's coming out that we're publishing with Forbes. This October 3rd, it's coming out, called Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. I took the introduction of that, the whole intro of the book, and I said, write the inside flap as to why people would want to read this book. And it produced a phenomenal, I said, write 10 reasons why. So I even pushed it to write 10 reasons why. It wrote them out. They were phenomenal. And I used that. And I'll say right now, if I had went to a writer or a marketing person, I said, can you take this intro and read it? And we're talking no less than 8 hours of work would have gone into that at probably about $100 an hour. So there's $1,000 to put this one piece together, and I did it within seconds. So ChatGPT is a game changer. It does help startups save money. And I'd actually recommend pay the $20 a month. I know they have a pro version. I do, and you get better access, and you'll be surprised at how many times within your startup you start to use OpenAI's ChatGPT. Michelle, have you got a hack for us?
I've got a hack. All right. So for me, I, it's along those lines, but it's really about using, freelancers and offshore people. You know, I think if a lot of us look around, there's a lot of positions in our company that you probably really don't need them sitting there and actually working. I say actually because a lot of people just maybe they work 50% of the time, even though you're paying them for 100% of the time. So consider giving people flexibility in their schedule. Like, that may mean more to them other than requiring them to be 100% dedicated. And along that line, freelancers and offshoring. I know I said several things there, but it's definitely something to consider, like how long, how demanding, etc. is the job. Not every job starts off as an executive job, and a lot of people highly value freedom and flexibility and ability to move to other positions in the company. So just really know what the job requires before you go throwing out, like whatever X amount of money. Before you do that, like understand, could it be remote? Could they make less? Would they like flexibility and they would take 25% less? There are ways to do this where everybody comes out happy and you're not taking advantage. So that's it, Colin, for me right now.
Yeah, so I think you got two concepts there, which is, startups, we can't afford to necessarily compete with Fortune 5,000 companies and pay top dollar, but what we can do is give them more flexibility, and that can help get us top talent at a lower price. And I know in our office, Olivia, who runs marketing, she was in Fort Lauderdale and she had to pick up her son every day at 3 o'clock. And we do miss her in the office. Let me say this. She had to pick up her son every day. So the son would come, he'd play soccer in our incubator. It's pretty big. And with this ball, and he'd be running back and forth for like 2 hours, whatnot. And then she said she wanted to move to Chicago. And so she moved up to Chicago and she's living up with her son now. And she continues to work for Startup Club. And it's just interesting. Like we were like, whatever you want, whatever you want. Now, let's be quite frank. We're still Startup Club is a startup. We're not a big corporation. We're not Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur magazine. We're still, trying to build up a community here, and it's not profitable at this stage, and hopefully one day it will be soon. But the reality is, we got to we have to watch the costs very closely. Michelle, the other thing you talked about is this idea of outsourcing offshore, and this, I call it a BPO mindset, business process outsourcing mindset. And you have a very cool story that I shared in the book around an artist that you hired. You had an employee who was making $60,000 a year doing your cartoon. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. I mean, specifically, I've had very good success out of the Philippines, and basically, there is amazing talent in other countries. Now, what you have to be aware of, and I've worked at companies, and I'm sure others have as well too, you have to really be prepared to manage and interact with them. Because, like anything else, like any other employee, if you just throw them in the corner and expect them to read your mind, you know what? It's not happening. So we found an amazing young lady who's an amazing illustrator, and we actually use her across projects and across companies and incubators. And she's making, beyond a fair wage in her country. And it's a real, save and blessing for us because we were able to acquire some talent. And I was actually telling Colin today, because we're looking at someone else specifically out of the Philippines, is like I have this whole approach I use. Like, you really define the job well, you really set the stage for what the working environment is, how you want to interact with them. And then what I do is I actually find a couple of projects that I pay them for as part of the interviewing process. Because I don't know about everybody else, but it's really hard to tell how well you'll work with someone, which to me is, skills probably about 50%, and how you work together is another 50%. So I do these little one off projects with them as part of the hiring process, which I pay them very fairly for. And then we're able to make a good decision where everybody's happy. And, I believe that people want to work places where they're happy and they can have fun and be productive and grow. So that's how we did it, Colin.
Yeah, so you're talking about one-sixth the cost. And to the cartoon, you continue to run the cartoon. It runs every day. It's called Milton the Cat. It's actually very funny cartoons. And I know you have your team here in South Florida design the concepts. And, that really doesn't take as much time, although there's definitely talent in that. Don't get me wrong. And then you have her make all of the cartoons. And when we submitted the book to Forbes, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, we had her develop over 40 illustrations. And actually, we've done 2 articles now with Forbes. Um, if you search for 8 reasons why startups fail to scale, you'll see the last one. You can see an illustration that she did as well, which is really interesting. Like, you can do amazing things with support from offshore. Tej, always enjoy you coming on stage and sharing your wisdom with us. You know, do you have a hack or idea that startups can use to save money that doesn't affect the product or service?
Thanks for having me, Colin. Yes, I enjoy your room. So I was listening in the background and I joined a little late, but good feedback so far. And the way we look at it, so we deal with late stage companies, right? At the earliest, so round A and beyond, and then debt ready companies. So, but for even a startup, whether you are in your first $100,000 in revenue or 100 million, the first thing I always think about is know what to expect because no one likes surprises. So don't ever be caught off guard, meaning we're in a bad year right now. It's a recessionary field, layoffs, train supply supply chain crunches still, banks getting foreclosed on or getting bought out. Right. First thing is most any businesses, whether you are a solopreneur or you have 1,000 employees, forecast your cash flow. Look forward. Right. Assuming you might lose some clients or whatever it might be, but look at your revenue over the last 12 months, 24 months, and then looking forward. How long will that last until you're insolvent? So is it 3 months, 9 months, 12 months? If nothing changes. Do that first and foremost is forecast so you know what you're in for. Surprises are never a good thing, okay? And if you can, this might be a little late, but get aligned. We had our best year last year, and we thought, and I said to the partners, we had our best year. Everyone's throwing money at us, but things are going to change. It's been about 5 years of good times. Things are going to change. We set up a line of credit. We haven't dipped into it, but we set it up. When times are really good, set up your line of credit. If you're doing well right now, go get a line of credit any way, shape, or form, because when you need it, no one's going to give it to you. When you don't need it, everybody's going to throw the best rates and money at you. So do that. And then the third tip I'll give is make proactive calls, not reactive ones. Reactive calls, just like surprises, will do your business dirty. Proactive calls might save clients, might save employees from leaving. It might save your partners, vendors, banks from giving you a bad call because things are going sour. So make the proactive calls versus the reactive calls. The worse times get this year, the more you're going to reach out before anyone calls you, because if someone calls you in a panic, whether it's employee, partner, vendor, supplier, or an investor, that usually is not going to go well in a bad market. So those are the three things at a high level that I would say. So forecast, looking out how long are you viable and comfortable to maintain this if the market stays bad for 12 months or otherwise. Get a line, secure some kind of cash or otherwise, and most importantly, make proactive calls to everyone, because when times are bad, people shy away from making calls. You stand out from the crowd by making those calls, fortifying the relationships, and that might be the difference of you sustaining for 6 months versus maybe 18 months if you need to. So there's my 3 tips. I hope that makes some sense, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, especially in a time like today's environment where interest rates are so high. And hindsight is 2020. If we could have just went back as startups and raised more money when the interest rates were lower or when the market was more frothy. I know in the e-commerce space, we have a number of e-commerce companies here in our incubator, and in that space, it's actually become very challenging. We had supply chain shocks, $25,000 container costs, and we had market valuations collapse. I mean, even publicly traded e-commerce companies have collapsed about 80% in value. And so raising money as an e-commerce company right now it's deadly. It's a hard time to do that. And yeah, it's going to your advice is very wise, but we're stuck in a difficult time, Tej. I mean, like, what do you do now if you did raise the money? I'm just curious if you have a thought about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you did or if you didn't raise
If
money,
you did not, well, obviously you did raise the money early on. You're the smart one, okay? But I
right,
have a
right,
number of companies in the incubator who didn't raise the money, and I have shares in these companies as well, obviously. But what I'm saying
yeah.
is, what's the advice for them at this stage?
A good question. If you did not raise the money, then you have to cut ruthlessly on things like I think Michelle mentioned, things you can outsource, right? You got to look to minimize the variables, right? Because fixed cost, typically like your lease, salary, things like that, you are not going to be able to control as much unless you're cutting employees, which might be something you need to do. If you can say, if three people are doing three jobs that overlap, you might be able to get one or two people to do those three jobs without too much disruption to them, and you can save on salaries. But outside of things like that, the variables such as outsourcing things versus doing it yourself and having allocated. For example, if you have a CFO, someone who manages finances, you may not need that person if you're a relatively small shop. And you can go out and maybe hire some kind of a virtual bookkeeper or using TurboTax for things to manage it yourself. That might be a way. But first and foremost, th- this is more of a proactive thing. I'm a very, and you can hear my tone that even the worst of times, there's things you can do that are in your control, and some things are out of your control. But don't let that get worse. So for me, it's calling clients who already do business with us to see if we can drum up more business from those clients, right? Revenue generation first and foremost before anything else. So in bad times like this, we are calling every single client, not only that we've done business with recently, clients that we have not talked to in 3 or 4 years. Because think about this, Colin, what's easier, to go out and figure out how to put the tourniquet on the bleed of money right now when you may have already cut everything, or drive a little bit of extra revenue instead of just putting the tourniquet on it? And it sounds counterintuitive, but make those calls to pre 2020 clients, because pre COVID clients that you may have lost, clients you could have done business with or you didn't do business with, now the market and the dynamics of doing business have changed completely. It's an absolutely new world. So for us, we're going back and calling people to do business with them. And we actually end up getting two engagements in the past 2 years that we otherwise wouldn't have had prior to COVID. So things have changed in the market. So I would say make those proactive calls to every single person that affects your company, and you will find new business out of it. You will find that you have employee attrition kept at bay, and actually opportunities will come out of it. That's the simplest way to look at it, outside of the things like Michelle said, outsourcing, maybe cutting a few heads if you have to, unfortunately, taking three jobs, combining them into one or two jobs, things like that. But make the proactive calls, because the reactive calls, they will take your business from hero to zero overnight if you get a bad call. So I'm a fan of, first and foremost, protecting what you do have.
And you, like, Tej, that's amazing advice. And obviously, you're acting from experience. But you really made me just think of something. Thank you. And that is along the side of like looking at your current customers and going and talking to them. I have worked and managed companies where we went back and looked at supplier contractors and what did those agreements say. And I'm going to tell you, almost always there is an opportunity to adjust those so that you save more money. And it can even be tied to success for them as well. But oftentimes in the beginning, we sign these contracts because we're trying to just get them on board. And quite honestly, they're not even, meaning they're more towards their favor than they are ours. And then you start making the money, etc. Well, there is an opportunity almost always to go back and right size those and make them more equitable. Like there's huge opportunities there. And it's the same for like subscriptions and software. Oh my gosh, people, like track your subscriptions, your memberships, your agreements, because you can have a lot of leakage. It's not hard to get out of control on those. Right, Tish?
That's a superb point. And actually, since you brought it up, for anyone listening, renegotiate. Like she just said, renegotiate. I was talking about suppliers and vendors and partners, etc. But that's even a better point. Renegotiate if your term was done prior to a pre-COVID or whatever, and you may have room in there. Especially think about this: if someone calls you, you're selling whatever it is, widgets to your people that you're distributing to, you're B2B. They call you and say, "We have a choice. We are either going to go to another vendor. Unfortunately, we have a great relationship. we want to stay with you. So we're hoping you can reduce some of our bills, and giving us the same product, maybe, longer term, so we can pay you in 90 days instead of 45 days. Or if we pay you early, give us a deeper discount of 20%. That would help us. Otherwise, we are forced to have to go find other vendors or suppliers that can help us right now, because right now there's a crunch for everyone. And this is the call that we didn't want to make, but we have to make. So there's a good proactive call to make. Renegotiate every single supplier vendor relationship you possibly have. And I'll tell you right now, you can even renegotiate a lease. Renegotiate our lease a couple of years ago, which prior to COVID, you would have never renegotiated a lease. They would have said, please, there's the door. Don't let yourself, get hit on the way out. But now, a lease, probably one of your biggest expenses, can be renegotiated, because they do not want you saying, well, we're going to run out of money in 3-4 months at this rate, so then you come after us or work with us, right? It's like a bank says, they'd rather you call them now, let them work with you in advance. Remember, surprises are ever, in any way, shape, or form, never a good thing. So don't surprise anybody, call them first. So that was a great point, Michelle.
Yeah,
Geez,
I love your
Tej,
mantra. I love his mantra, Colin, and then I'll
I
let
know.
you
I
go.
was like, you should be running a show on
You
Startup Club,
should,
your
for
own
real.
show. I think you should. I don't know if you do or not. Are you a leader on Startup Club? But you might want to think about it. We're always looking for great leaders and people to run their own shows. Even if it's a once a month show, it's a good idea to do that. Yeah, I love what you're talking about. I think you're bang on.
Yeah, no, I'd
I
love
like
to.
to
Yeah, let's
say,
talk
and
offline. I'd love to do something like that. I love educating, right? You can hear my voice. I love sharing what I've
exactly.
accumulated over 22 years. So yeah, absolutely, we can talk about it. Sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like it. I think the this idea of being humble and approaching your suppliers with your problems. Share your problems with your suppliers. Mr. Supplier, I can't pay you $50,000 a year, but here's what because my company just, it doesn't have the money. We have some good products. You don't want to show you're too weak, or else they could question your ability to pay the bills. But here's what I can do. Look, we're all human. We all talk to humans, and we all want to help each other out. And your suppliers want to help you too. Sometimes you can share your problems with your supplier and they help you solve them. Don't hide them. Sometimes don't always try to be this sort of strong, I am this great startup, blah, 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 and I'm taking over the world. No, I'm a humble startup. Okay, here I'll tell you one story, and then we're going to jump to Kabram. You've been very good and very patient. And Jack, welcome on the stage. You're all amazing that you came on again. But, oh, geez, Jack, I just moved you to the audience. I meant to make you moderator. Let me try that again. Sorry,
I
if you're
got him
hearing
up.
me.
Let me,
You got him
yeah,
up. All right, I meant to make you moderator, Jack. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
I got him.
But when I was just after I graduated from university, I worked on the farm, and we would sell vegetables at our stand on the farm. So often, if you know farmers, they don't have every vegetable. So you'd go to the market and you'd buy vegetables. I'd go to the Toronto food terminal and I'd wear my University of Toronto jacket. And I remember negotiating multiple vendors. They saw me coming. I'm like this poor student who just wants to pay for college. And I would put the money in their hand. I literally put the $1,000 in their hand. I says, I want to buy your corn. And I put the $1,000. Here's what I got. And here's the price I need. And he was like, no, I could never do that. And a half hour later, after I told him about my college, what I was doing, and I just needed help, bam, I got the deal and moved on. I got it. Now, of course, you've got to be authentic. You can't just be complete bullshit. And I really was trying to put myself through college. This is totally a true story. So there it is. Try to share your problems with your vendors. Kabram, am I pronouncing that correctly? Don't know. I'm following you, by the way. I'm your first follower. Welcome to Clubhouse.
Thanks. Yeah, I just installed Clubhouse now. I had another account, but I couldn't retrieve it. Um, Actually, I wanted to speak when I heard, was it Colin speaking about ChatGPT to optimize costs?
Yes,
I
please.
am, yeah, so I am a technical person, and from the technical perspective, I was shocked when I tried using ChatGPT on technologies that I do not have the technical ability, and I was able to do the job with ChatGPT. It was actually a web game, but the thing is, if I can do it without any knowledge of the technology by just only chatting with ChatGPT, imagine what it can do if you enforce it within your startup. If you uh, make it available to all of your employees, if you enforce it to be used, it can be helpful. As a developer, it kind of makes me 10x better or productive. Um, and this is really huge opportunity, actually. Um, I mean, enterprise companies are using GPT-4, and as a starter, as a small startup, the opportunity of having that API or the opportunity of the new tools can improve the performance. I mean, in my view, it's kind of 10x. So that was a good idea from Colin. That's why I wanted to kind of add something.
Yeah, no, thank you. And pronounce your name again, Kabram. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it's Kabram. Yeah,
Kabram. Kabram. So tell me, like as a developer, how does it help you save time? Can you just give us a little bit more detail on that?
sure, sure. Yeah. First of all, you can ask ChatGPT anything, and then it kind of knows what your intention is. So it saves you some hours that otherwise would have been spent on searching, on googling. Uh, and the other is Copilot. Actually, there is this plugin for developers. So it's literally magic. I mean, the other day I was kind of doing some if else calculation. It took me kind of 40 minutes to figure out all the conditions. But then when I just typed if, it kind of auto completed the whole page, and then everything was kind of perfect. And then it kind of knew what I was up to based on what I'm working on. And programming is kind of becoming a joke right now, to be honest. Um, so it's really game changing. Actually, I am starting a startup. The idea is to kind of make it fully autonomous with AI, but for now, it kind of the aim is to reduce development and startup costs by around 75%. So we use ChatGPT on the front page of our website. It's kind of refines the requirements, and then we also enforce our developers to use ChatGPT and Copilot to do the tasks. Uh, so it's kind of promising. I mean, for me, this new GPT-4 is game changing. It's a really, really big deal.
Yeah, I mean it is amazing, and I think we've all seen what it can do, and the more startups embrace it, the better productivity, the lower costs. I mean, I know in our call center, we have an offshore call center for paw.com, and sometimes their English language is not perfect. It also, when a call center person responds, they don't necessarily respond in a positive tone naturally. So we have implemented a system where they go through ChatGPT so that when they respond, we say make it more positive, the response. It is absolutely amazing. I know we don't want this to become a ChatGPT hour, so I'll share one idea and then we'll jump to Jack. Another idea, because we want to get to 18, right? We want to get to 18 really cool hacks and ideas. And by the way, you can actually see the blog that Mimi's going to put together on startup.club. It's a very cool blog. She writes it out every week based on the show. And if you caught this midway, you can recapture the show on your favorite podcast channel. We are Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. And my co-hosts now, Jack, Tej, Michelle, Mimi, and myself are happy to help you with coming on stage and answering questions, or quite frankly, share an experience. Like if you're in the audience, if you had a cool idea to cut costs, or cool, I call it minor major, or growth hack, or slash hack. I don't know what we're going to call that. But if you have a way of reducing costs, it doesn't affect your customer service or your product, we'd be glad to hear from you. So my next one is this on startups. All startups should consider not paying for office space, but joining a local incubator. Often the universities offer a space, or they have, like some cities offer, the libraries offer a free space. But you not only connect and get an office space, you also make a lot of connections. You meet investors, and they're free. Like we run one at the Alan Levan Innovation Center at NSU, and I'm one of the people who teaches the cohort, and it's absolutely free. And you can apply for it absolutely free. And there are about 10 different speakers that come in over 10 weeks, and you do a pitch competition and everything. And that's actually a way of really making a lot of connections and not spending any money on space. Jack, you've been patient. Nice to see you again today. Really looking forward to hearing what are we going to call this? We can't call it, it's not a growth hack. It's like a save hack. Is that it, Jack? Yeah.
Hi, Colin. Hi, Startup Club. Hi, everybody. Can you give me just like 1 minute and come back to me in like 1 minute? I'm about to step in the elevator. I don't want to
Yeah,
lose you
no,
guys.
that's absolutely fine. And I know we've got some more ideas here. We do have Michelle who's come on stage. Michelle, I'm going to follow you there. Again, I promise to follow you if you come on stage. We'd love it. We'd love to hear from you, Michelle, what your save hack is. Michelle, if you're there,
Can you
or
hear
did
me?
I?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm getting a red bar.
I'm hearing you. Yeah, we're here. Yeah.
Okay. If I drop, I'll come back on. Thank you for inviting me up. Right now, my save hack is actually I've began reaching out to people in my area that are also in my same type of industry. So let me just introduce myself. My name is Michelle. I am from North Carolina. I'm a new entrepreneur. I just started two brand new businesses. The first is ClearPoint Notary, where I've been a notary for 7 years, but I kind of took it to the next level, learning how to read loan documents. And so now I'm a loan signing agent, and just for the state of North Carolina. And shortly after that, I opened a Glow Beauty business, Glow Beauty Supply, which is in the business of giving natural and organic products for people who are suffering with eczema. I've been suffering with eczema since I was 17. So I offer natural product solutions on my site, to the alternatives of having prescription and over-the-counter medicines that used to do more damage than good. Being a new startup for two new startups, I don't have a tremendous amount of capital just to waste. So I've reached out to others in my area, and I share spaces with realtors. I share spaces with people who already have offices, and I offer some of my services for free. If they need notarization documents for free, I can stay in that their office for like that week, and just kind of get some work done, meet clients. I'm always open to learning more ways to save money. But for right now, that's been one of my biggest hacks to save money as a new startup. And I rest my mic.
I think that's so cool that you're using, this notary service as a way to help others and, help yourself too. Like, that's really cool. Like, just, I think people limit their own selves. And, right, Jack? Like, it reminds me of your talks. Like, don't limit yourself. You have, Michelle identified something that she has to give, and she's giving it in exchange. She's not going around like feeling sorry for herself or asking for a hangout. I think that's a fabulous idea. Like, people should just think, what do they have to offer? And it can also help you move forward. Fantastic.
one thing I might quickly add is that was great shares by her, and
Uh, uh,
leverage the power of
okay.
relationships, which is huge because of the fact that she's smart, right? It's complementary. She's offering something to other businesses that gets her to expand her reach, her marketing. They can market for her if she does a good job, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm such a ROR, return on relationships. So that was a great point. One of my biggest things I talk about. So thanks for bringing that up. Leverage all of your relationships in every possible way. It's a lot easier to co-brand and cohabitate, like Colin said, versus having your own space. So good point. Great point, actually.
All right, sorry, I know I had a technical
No,
problem, but Sanket, you were going to jump in there. Go ahead.
yeah. I just want to say about one of the moderators out here, if someone is actually, facing issue with eczema, then there are two solutions that I know as of now. The first thing, you should go ahead and take for medication, which is dry eczema and, wet eczema. That one has to figure out, and I'm sure that it will happen. One would be dry eczema, and the other would be that for sure, if the person opens or I would say the person opens the eyes in the morning, give them lukewarm water and
Okay, I'm sorry. I
uh,
fell off for a minute. I'm sorry, Sanket. I can't do this. I fell off for a minute and then apologize if I'm cutting you off here unnecessarily, but I don't know what we were talking about, but we're running into a conversation that I don't think's what we're intending in this room. Am I right, Michelle? Or
someone actually said,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
why I'm
yeah.
saying.
You're right.
oh, okay.
Um,
So I apologize. I apologize. That's why I wanted to clarify. I apologize. Yeah, I apologize.
but let's keep it. Yes, and we appreciate that, Kimbram. Um, so back to how do we save money? And I think I'm going to move that forward to leveraging what resources you have. I don't know about everyone here,
No,
but
no, I'll tell you, I can tell probably anyone in the world, probably whatever
right,
skills that whatever skills that you have, whatever skill, supposedly you do
right.
anything in the world, whatever you do it, do it on Coin Bazaar. I'm not promoting myself, I'm not promoting anything, but I'll tell you that you have the best resort. You just go there. If you are thinking of anything, then probably you should find a resort. I'm not saying you go there. Don't think about it. I don't want to be a marketer. I don't want to be. I'm the founder, so I don't want to be like, okay, fine. But then again, you have to find a resort that if you are at home, you want to own something, how you can go ahead and do that. You find it on Google, you find it on everywhere. But technically, if we speak of AI, with everything, what you can think of AI. AI is there. AI is not bad. AI is not good. That's what I can say. Whatever your skills are, develop the skills. And whatever skills that you have, you can get it monetized. Think of monetization. And I assure you that you come to Coinbazar and I'll make sure that you will get monetized. Whatever
All
skills that
right,
you have, that's all that you have to. Think of connecting to the world. Get connected to the world. Get connected to anywhere and everywhere. Don't think about, okay, fine, I am in US, UK, India, there, 186 countries. Get connected to the world. Get
all
your
right,
connected, right?
all right. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it. Um, what I was trying to say is it's important to know what resources you currently have at your company, because I'm going to tell you there's not been a company that I've worked for where people weren't like, "Oh my god, we need to hire more people, we need more tools, etc." That's always the reality. But quite oftentimes we have what we need, but what we really need to do is focus on what really works and move that forward, right? So prioritization and really understanding your current resources and make sure you're maximizing those. I think there's a lot of underutilization of people and tools, etc. So really understand what are your goals and what do you need to do them. Thank you.
And
You know,
going back to
it's a very basic thing for the founder, because founder has to go through all those things. You go anywhere, who has been a founder who has not gone through all those things? It's a very absurd thing. If you would be a founder for something, everyone in the room has been founder or maybe doing something. They would be doing something. So founder is not God. He is there. So he has to go with the procedure only. It's just that the differentiator is there, Okay, fine. When we see anything, if supposedly I'm there and I would be in the Shark Tank. Okay, fine. Someone will ask me, okay, fine, what do I need to do? And founder has to go through all those things, and the founder has to find its own way. And that's a very, very basic phenomena that there is no
Right.
rocket science about, all those things.
Yes. And
So when
just a
investor
quick,
invest,
let's do
when
a quick reset, Sandkit, of the room. We
I'm
got
ready
about
whenever you guys are.
15, yeah, we have about 15 minutes left, and we like to end right on time. So I see we have Augustine. Augustine, we'd love to hear what you have to say, please.
Um, Good afternoon. Thank you for hosting this session. It's very important. I'll make it quick and to the point. Um, I'm working for a fairly new fintech that within the last year, we've had to retrench one on our product offering based on the different sprints that we have to do to contain costs. So that's one of the areas that we have to look at what is our value proposition in hitting our target market. Obviously, this is in alignment with our investors, and of course with the executive board. Yes, we've touched a couple of points that you guys have mentioned. We grew very big, and then we had to retrench, so we are back to what our employee number was in 2021. So has made an impact, and we're wearing multiple hats. We're maintaining a business that hopefully is incrementing. So one of the areas that has impacted us has been the um, individuals in the corporation itself. Two, the funding. Obviously, we've had to stretch it, and some of the content that we used to put out there and internal groups that we've had to um, basically break ties with them, and of course, look to outsource, which is something that I heard earlier. All this impacts the morale of the company and the individuals. Of course, we try to understand what the value proposition is and maintain everybody focused. So one of the things I heard was prioritization that you guys had mentioned. That has been something key, especially in our products and services, and see how we best align to ensure that what we deliver is what's going to have a revenue impact, because that's the name of the game. What's going to be my revenue in the next quarter and the following quarter? Um, Likewise, I'm also working to start a new MVP. This is a separate company that I'm pushing with a partner. And one of the things is lesson learned. What do you want to put out there, and how are you going to work with a developer in trying to streamline how many services are available? If you could tie any development work to, let's say, a CMS system or an LMS, learning management system, and drive some of the content that can actually help you based on your incremental of resources and prospect customers out there. So just wanted to put that out there because from my perspective, the it's been a learning experience coming from corporate America, going to a fintech, seeing the struggles, seeing the changes. How do we adapt to today's economy, and highlight the different points that we have out there that we've mentioned in this call, and then what's the next phase. And I'm actually seeing how I'm going to work with this new MVP that we're putting out there to have an opportunity to uh, base everything on lessons learned. Thank you.
all right, that was very cool. Uh, Yeah, it's interesting. We're learning on Sankit. Hold on, hands. Hold on, Sankit. Hold on. I know you're eager to go here, but hold on. We're trying to come up with 18 really cool save hacks. That's what we're doing here today. Appreciate that, Augustin. That was really good. One of the things that I often tell startups is to pay your people with love, ownership, and freedom. And I know we touched upon the freedom a little bit earlier, Michelle, when you talked about how making it flexible for employees. So I won't go into that right now, although that's become more challenging since the pandemic because a lot of Fortune 5,000 companies are actually giving more freedom to their employees right now. But pay your employees with love. What do I mean by that? This is going to sound very, very basic for a minute here. Uh, it's simply about recognizing greatness, recognizing their achievements, helping to develop them as individuals. We're talking about things we can do here that cost absolutely nothing and yet can have a huge impact on your employees. When we recognize greatness, we recognize their achievements, we recognize what they've done. A large percentage of individuals leave their businesses, or sorry, leave the companies they work for because they don't believe that they have been recognized for the efforts they've put into that company. Think about that. Now, is it natural for a startup founder to recognize greatness? I'll be quite frank, it's not. It's not been easy for me. It took me 25 years to figure this out. Mimi does absolutely a great job at writing these blogs. She's tied hard in this company. And I probably haven't told Mimi enough. Now, hopefully she gets the message, but the reality is we don't do that. So let's start recognizing greatness. Let's start helping to develop our people more because we have a problem. We don't have the budgets that the Fortune 5,000 companies have. So we have to come up with alternatives. We have to figure out different ways that we can motivate employees that Fortune 5,000 companies don't normally use, or methods that they don't normally use, so that we can actually help motivate them here in our startup. So pay your people with love, pay your people with freedom and ownership. When I talk about ownership, I love stock options, and giving every employee stock options are part of a company. But it can be a little bit complicated and expensive for the legals, but you can do bonuses or milestone payments. So if we hit this objective, everybody in the company is getting X. I loved how in Spanx, the founder of Spanx, I think it was either they sold the company or did something big and they gave every employee $10,000. I thought that was, yeah, was it sold? It was selling
Yeah,
it,
they
Jack?
sold it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
maybe I'll pass it over to you, Jack, next. But pay your people with love, ownership, and freedom. What do you think?
No, I love it. I love it, and I think I love that's Sarah Blakely you're talking about. I love Sarah Blakely. She's
We
a
got to
beast.
get her
Actually,
on,
I
Jack.
had the
We got to get her on. Wouldn't she be amazing
okay.
on?
I'll work.
Oh, you're working on it. All
I'll
right.
work on that. I actually have a connection to her
Her
husband. So
name is Sarah Blakely.
yeah, Sarah Blakely and Jesse Esler. They're a great couple. But this has been a great talk. Number one, this has been a great talk. I know we're kind of pushed for time, so I'll make it quick because you guys know how I can get long winded. But one of the things that I've been doing in these difficult times is, really embracing my best employees. Embracing my best employees, and to be honest with you, letting go the ones that are, I'd rather have one amazing rockstar employee than five, average employees. And so for me, like what I've been doing in this time, because like let's be honest, it's been the market's just been kind of crazy. What I've been doing, what has helped me, is we have a full stack development team for FansPlan, and one of the things that we've been able to do to be able to cut our costs significantly is we just double down on the people that really are providing the most value for us, and we embrace them, and we actually kind of like what you were talking about giving them freedom and really giving them equity in the company, to where almost they're becoming our partners with us. And so the number one, because he also, I think it was, I'm not sure, I was driving, so I'm not exactly sure who said it, but the morale of the company is important, right? And so for me and for anybody out there that has a startup, like you want to keep the morale high, but you also have to look at the reality of, like, are all of these employees needed? sometimes hard times call for hard decisions. Let's be honest. And so before, we'll talk about like before the pandemic. Like before the pandemic, we had about thirteen people on payroll that we were paying, and we're down now to 3 people that we're paying. And what's crazy though is we're now making more. Literally in a downturn, we're now making more money than we've ever made. The people that we actually are, quote unquote, working with, that are our quote unquote employees, they have got a piece of the pie per se. So also just the morale has been increased. I find their excitement is a lot more. And they were actually, and the crazy part is that pre-COVID, they were actually making more money with me, because they were developing the site, they were developing what we were doing. And but now where we're kind of getting to it is, we're forming these strategic partnerships. And I think that's what I would kind of drive home to people that have a startup, and maybe they're struggling, maybe they're trying to cut costs, because I think that that's what we're talking about today, is kind of putting our startup on a diet. And that's what I did. And what's crazy about it is, it's like a blessing. Honestly, it's like a blessing. It's a little bit, it's sad, right? Because some of the people that started with us aren't going to finish with us, but the people that have stuck around and kind of have bought into the vision per se, we plan on rewarding those people. And I really feel the morale. I really feel the workflow, the sprints, everything that they're doing has just, the turnaround time has, with even less people, has been actually faster, because they're more excited about what we got going on. They're more excited to be a part of, the company as a whole. And so that's what I would tell people, is I would tell people to embrace your best employees, and look at look at your employees. And you have to really ask at the end of the day, I had to ask myself, with all 13 of those employees that I had on the books, I had to ask myself, hey, are these people, are they an asset, or are they a liability? And I'm sorry that I don't know who was bringing up the valid points, but somebody was also speaking about chat GPT, and we that as well, into the script writing and all the different things, the email marketing. Literally, Chat GPS has basically replaced our entire marketing department. And so, you know, it's just a really interesting time that we're living in. And so I would also just tell people to be very open minded, because that was one thing when first Chat GPS came out. I was kind of a little bit hesitant, but as I got more information and more the ability to kind of see what it could offer me, I realized very quickly that, wow, this was a great way to save some money.
I couldn't agree more, you know. I mean, coming full circle, like cost, but people. Like people are invaluable. We can't do anything we do, at least I can't, without great people. So I'm all with you, Jack. Like we need to like reward and value, people that really are the ones that make the machine run. Great feedback.
It's all about the team. It's all about the team, how team works, how team does all those things. I mean, because if we'll go ahead and check anything and everything, you check anything and everything in the world, it's not that the car has been made by Ford only. It's the people. It's not something that maybe Elon, okay, fine. He launched uh, he isn't that, then one thing is for sure, that it's all about the teamwork, and you have to believe the team. That's what I can say. Otherwise, I have to say a lot of things. But then again, I'm sorry. But then again, you have to have the team, and the believe in the team is the foremost thing for sure.
Thank you, Sanket, and Jack as well. My wife and I, we run a school, and we went through the pandemic. It was pretty tough, I have to say. Trying to survive through that. And what we, what I said to her, I said, you need to start looking at your costs. You have She had a subscription for cents, for instance, for $49 a month. And she had, all these little tiny costs. And I said, if you cut 100 small things within the business that are not going to affect products and service, 100 small cuts can make a difference. Because when I said she should do this or she should do that, she goes, oh, it's not going to make a difference. Well, you know what? 100 small cuts do make a difference. And that's just remember that story. And by the way, the school is thriving. It's doing very well. It's one of the top rated schools in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So, she's doing well with it. And
One thing. I'm sorry.
well, Sankit, yeah, we got to close out the show, Sankit. But appreciate all of the
Because
contributions that you made today.
because you said you cut 100 things. You cut 100 things. That's not the point. But the point is that you said it rightly. Every company is cost cutting everything because even yesterday I heard the news that at the time Amazon cut down 10,000, people. So it happens anything and everywhere because people are understanding. Okay, fine. What is the use of online? Online as in going online. There is no, there is no thing in the world that would not want to go ahead and let you want to go ahead and go to a bank and do it the same way. So transformation is happening. That is that, and we have to accept it. We have to accept it right here. We have to accept it after 10,
I
10
think that's
months,
a perfect
years,
ending.
2 years,
Sankit,
or
that's
probably
that's a
any time.
that's a perfect ending, Sankit. Those startups that
Yes.
embrace technology, those ones that embrace technology, like Sankit said there, um, if you put your head in the sand and you ignore ChatGPT, you ignore technology, ignore automation of your services, uh, using technology to cut cost is probably one of the best piece of advice that we've gotten here today. Thank you very much, Sankit. If you haven't already done so, check out startup.club. We pinged it at the top of the room here. Roland, you just joined as a listener. You came in late. We're closing the room. All right, but we always love you, Roland. So we're just going to, I want to let you know that you can go to startup.club. We have over 105 episodes now around serial entrepreneur secrets revealed. We also have episodes recorded for the complete entrepreneur, which focuses a little bit on the different aspect of entrepreneurship. It's really about the human toll that an entrepreneur goes through, and every one of those episodes is absolutely fascinating. Uh, this has been Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. Thank you to my co-moderators, Michelle Van Tilburg and Mimi Ostrander, who's also writes our blogs. I'm Colin C. Campbell, and we'll see you next week on I was supposed to say the complete entrepreneur, Michelle, on the
I
Serial
know. I
Entrepreneur
heard
Secrets
that.
Revealed. On Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed, you can find it on any podcast channel out there, and there's some phenomenal episodes. Michelle, you want to close it out?
Yes, yes. Everyone, have an amazing weekend and check out www.startup.club. We have an email list where you can get notifications of really cool speakers like Jeffrey Moore or, Jack Foster, who started Reebok. We really have amazing speakers, and we would love for everyone to attend or listen to replays. So thank you so much and be well.